We are live in Ashburn at Commanders Mini Camp. There may or may not be a walkthrough happening. I don't know. They put up this barrier at 4 o'clock, so we can't see the field because we're inside the bubble. And then I haven't heard anything happening out there. I've seen other media members poking through, kind of trying to see, like, oh, is there whatever? I'm guessing at this point there is no walkthrough happening, at least anymore, because
I feel like we hear it. This is a group that makes some noise.
They do, but they're like one of the TV stations, maybe it's ABC7, has like a camera set up over there that is definitely on the other side of the barrier.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess that if there was a walkthrough, it's already over.
They would not be allowed to have that camera in that position
No.
right now,
No.
filming a walkthrough.
No.
This is when the trick plays come in. This
Oh,
guy you load up for the season, right? Warm them up. They had a couple interesting ones today, and I won't give away too much, but they definitely had some plays where Kingsbury has installed a lot of options inside of some of these plays where
Yes.
they can do a lot of different things. What I love about that is that's cool, and also Jaden Daniels, I think, has the processing power to run those plays and make those decisions, which is cool too.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Luke McCaffrey, actually, who I spoke to after practice, I had to wait on him because he was working with Anthony Lynn. So, you know, he's trying to understand, like, end-around type of stuff. Who knows? Maybe they line him up at running back. I don't know. Maybe he's just like, I want to learn from learn what my brother learned. He got on the cover of Madden. And I talked about all of that with Luke McCaffrey.
Oh,
You'll hear that.
I love it.
In 13 minutes, and they call that a tease, Michael.
That was a good tease. I like that right there. What I love was, you've got all these like different guys, and I've read everybody's reports about Jamin Davis being an edge rusher, but to watch him be coached by Darryl Tapp out there and line up.
You covered Tapp as a player, yeah?
Yeah, I love Darryl Tapp. To watch him line up in that spot and be coached, like, oh, this is real. Like this wasn't for show. This wasn't to send a message. This is because they think that is where they can maximize his skill set.
So real quick, I don't know if it's where they think. I think they just want to find out. Like, they see a list of traits, and they're like, that could work. Let's find out. And that's the thing about this staff is, like, they will look at what your traits are. And this actually bleeds into what the conversation that I had with Kime, which we talked about, like, positionless basketball and like, the mix of that concept into what Dan Quinn does defensively, because Quinn actually talked to basketball coaches about it.
Oh, that's cool.
What it is NBA teams realize we have these 6'7" guys that not like 6'2", like 6'7" guys that are lengthy, rangy, can handle, can shoot. They can do everything. So why would we put multiples of them out there? And that creates some advantages for us tactically. Or like we figure out this 7-foot tall guy can do the thing the normal 6'2" guy does, but also the 6'2" guy is actually really good at some stuff that sometimes we ask a 7-foot guy to do. So why don't we just switch them? And we make it, instead of being like, the power forward is here. And that's essentially what Dan Quinn has taken to football defensively, is like, oh, this guy's super explosive, has long arms, and has an ability to convert speed to power. Those are things we look for in a pass rusher. So let's try him at pass rusher and see what happens.
What's the worst that could happen?
You just move him back to linebacker and then let him go after the end of the year because he didn't pick up his fifth-year option.
I was going to say, if we're doing surprise cuts, hey, I mean,
well,
he's on my list.
That's what they call a transition in the business. By the way, I do believe Darryl Tapp, your guy, is going to be on the show tomorrow. So
I love that.
Vertical tees, and radio kids out there listening. Horizontal tees within your show. Vertical tees within the week. I got them both this segment.
That was impressive. You taught me about the clock too through CK.
Yeah.
I'd been doing the clock all wrong too. So now I do the clock right every day.
There you go.
Yeah,
we're out here making the radio world a better place
to
for
learn.
Everybody. All right. Here's
we come on after the Junkies in Richmond, because the Junkies broadcast down in Richmond.
Yeah.
And the Junkies closed their show today with, stick around, we're going to give away tickets to the HF Festival, the alternative rock festival they're bringing back. But then I come on. I don't have tickets to give away.
No.
But what was wild was I did have tickets to give away to Willie Nelson. And so people heard, hang around after the break, win tickets to see, Death Camp for Cutie or whatever. They came back as, hey, sorry, it's me, but I got Willie Nelson.
I wonder what happened to Sheehan, because the simulcast is on the Fan and 980, and we don't really give away tickets on 980.
I hope they gave him something.
You did better than Sheehan. Sheehan's like, I got takes for you. I got to talk about Kristaps Porzingis tearing that thing in his leg.
I love
what it means for the NBA Finals and how it should affect how it affects the smell test.
Yep.
All right. The Commanders have brought in a lot of players. That means some of the ones that were here, some familiar names, are likely to not survive the roster cuts at the end of August / early in September. I don't know what the actual date is this year. Probably early September.
Also, these guys have a late third preseason game. I don't think that changes it, but the whole thing's like
it's a league-wide deadline.
Yeah,
so,
okay. So just less time on the other side of the preseason game.
So we'll see if that affects their strategy.
They know what they're doing.
If maybe they do something. I always thought it was something, not to get into our late August content here in mid-June, but I always think it's weird that they don't use the third preseason game. And I realize they don't want people to get hurt, but, like, there's so much time between the last preseason game now and the first game. Like, I would ramp into that thing, but that's just me.
I want to co-sign it. I would leave them out of the first one and ramp them into the third. Yep,
but
absolutely.
What do we know? We're just guys who talk on the radio, but at least we know how the clock works. Okay, to pay off the tease from the last segment, Michael, guys that you think, like, I'll say a name. You tell me whether you think they're legitimately on the bubble. And I'm going to start with a guy who was a second-round pick not that long ago, who has barely played, who was drafted by a previous regime, obviously. And I'll leave the pre-qualifiers there. Obviously talking about Big Phil, Phil Mathis. Do you think there's a chance that he does not make this roster?
You know, he looked good today. He had some good speed to him. I think he probably – I'm putting him at 95% to make the roster. I'm not prepared to move him to the bubble. I left the door cracked open, but I think they'd like to see a full year of him, and I think he's pretty valuable backup material to Deron Payne.
I don't disagree with that. I think it is more likely than not that he makes it. He's a former second rounder.
I get where you're coming from, for sure.
But, like, I don't know. There was just a moment today where he was supposed to be in and he wasn't. And Tapp was not exactly pleased about it. He's like, I need a tackle, and Phil's running in there, and then he got pulled back out.
Yes.
And that kind of stuff with the new staff makes me queasy.
Tapp came back.
Like queasy on the player's behalf,
Tapp
to be
came
clear.
back over a minute later and said, that's my bad. That's on me.
Okay, that's good. That reporting.
But also, like, he's the kind of guy who does that, though. He'll take one for the team if he needs to take one for the team. So it was a chaotic situation, for sure.
Got it.
With guys running in and out. But I agree broadly, though. Something went wrong there, for sure.
Yeah.
And he was in the middle of that something that
Phil,
went wrong.
Phil needs to have a clean camp. But I do think that he
no
is
doubt.
obviously a tremendously talented player who needs to show that. But I do agree with you that they probably want the year to show it. So that means John Ridgeway, who was originally drafted by Quinn and company in Dallas, and then winds up here. The Cowboys tried to sneak him through the practice squad.
Yep.
The Commanders were like, no thanks, we'll take him.
We'll save him for you for next year.
With Johnny Newton presumably coming back for the start of the regular season.
I think he'll be on the active in week 1, yeah.
So it comes down to how many D linemen are they going to keep, and is John Ridgeway all of a sudden on the outside looking in?
5's an aggressive number of defensive tackles to keep, I hadn't considered it that way, so you've opened my eyes to that potential. Like, I do think you always look at who you can get through the cleanest. Like Mathis, probably somebody takes a flyer on that second-round talent, Alabama.
It would be pretty funny if they
things.
took a flyer on Ridgeway and then he got picked up again, and Quinn's like, really?
Yeah, I think Ridgeway's the easiest to get to the practice squad.
Yeah, of that group, for sure.
Of that group. So I think those are often the tiebreaker decisions. I just think if you put Mathis out there, somebody will say, we can work with that. He's from Alabama. Let's see, let's see what we can do with that.
For sure. Okay, offensively, next guy that comes to mind, Dyami Brown. Had the big catch today.
Yeah.
That's great. Even though that play was probably a sack, it's not Dyami's fault, and he ultimately makes the big one-handed catch.
Yeah.
I also think his value is misunderstood. He is a guy that's tremendous as a blocker, special teams player, very, very good. But ultimately, as a wide receiver, you got to catch the football. They have OZ, Olamide Zaccheaus. They have Luke McCaffrey they drafted. They have Terry Jahan. Where does that leave Dyami Brown?
Excited to hear from Olamide Zaccheaus tomorrow morning on MP on the Mic in Richmond, Virginia. There
Bang.
we go. It was a diagonal tease right there, I believe. Look,
by the way, is available on the free Odyssey app.
Let's go. We've seen enough Dyami in games that I just don't feel like there's a second gear available there. Like I talk about some of these guys like Percy Butler. Like there's probably another gear available there. You can kick him to another level. I've always said that about St. Juice. Like I think there's something there that you can really – I don't think there's something there with Dyami. I think we've seen what Dyami is. And I don't think this staff and this general manager are interested in plateaued, veteran players who don't have that gear. I think they're more interested in bringing some developmental guys in.
So that becomes interesting, though, because, like, how many do they keep? That becomes a huge question. And of that group, what do you value? And this is where I actually think Dyami, everyone is, like, in a rush to go ahead and be like, yeah, he doesn't have a chance. And I just don't think that's
he's
the
got
case.
he's got a chance.
Of course he's got a chance. But, like, there are definitely people that are like, he's going to be the guy. He'd be a popular answer to the surprise cut question, I think, is how I'll phrase it, right? But let's do
Is
the math.
Dax Milne a surprise cut?
I don't think he's a surprise cut.
Okay.
I don't think he's
I just want
shut.
to see what I can get away with in the surprise cut segment.
Because Terry, Jahan, McCaffrey, they
Yeah.
drafted him.
Yep.
Zacchaeus. And then you're talking about Brown, Crowder,
Especially with this kick return thing being a thing this
Bryson
year.
Tremaine,
Yeah.
like Mitchell Tinsley.
Mitchell Tinsley got a lot of preseason run last year. He was kind of that like preseason all-star guy. Who knows if that ever means anything, but it buys you the chance to be a guy at this camp.
And I just think I think there are, and actually, like, if Crowder counts, I think he could be a guy.
Sure.
Which I hate because I love JC.
Same.
But,
Same.
What spot isn't filled by someone else? And that's the problem, right? Especially if McCaffrey can return kicks and or punts.
Yes.
Then what does Crowder bring you? A veteran receiver in the slot and, security at that position. That's definitely worth something. But at the same time, if you can, would you rather have that or a guy like Brown who's a reliable blocker and one of your best gunners on teams? Those are the kinds of decisions that this kickoff return thing changes, and a guy like McCaffrey who's got positional versatility and can play inside, outside, can return kicks. Sainer still, I think, can return kicks, and they're trying out all these dudes.
Forbes is working on it today.
Yeah, they're just trying different body types, different dudes. Eckler's back there.
Sure.
I don't know. One of those guys is getting cut, I think.
Sure. You also have this.
Who?
I think they could bring in another receiver before it's all said and done, too. I don't think that door is closed either.
They already brought in Demir Bird.
So, body type, all those things, I think they're still looking to get bigger at that position, too.
All right. We have time for one more. I will let you pick. Is there a name that you want to nominate?
Ooh, you want to put some Chris Paul on the board, or is he just too valuable as a depth piece?
That is an interesting one because I don't think it's off the board.
Great.
Because they have Allegretti to start.
Yep.
Presumably.
Yep.
Then they have Dieter as a backup interior guy.
Is Ricky Stromberg's lane
Well, that's the
there
thing.
as well?
I think Paul and if we were to pick pairs and you have to pick a pair of guys and say one of them's not going to be on the roster, a Paul Stromberg parlay, if you will, would be a strong one.
Yeah, it's hard to keep both with what you're doing there.
Yeah, especially if they value the guy they brought in Dieter. They have Biotish, obviously, to start at center. They have Allegretti.
Cosme speaks for himself.
Those are your starters. And then, Dieter's the backup guy. You need one more.
Yep.
But, do they look at a guy like Mason Brooks? Do they look at, someone else? And Braden Daniels is floating around. Do they see him as a guard? There's only so many spots.
Especially the spots aren't as big a deal on a good team, but on a developing team where the GM's going to have some guys he wants to learn and grow, those spots become very valuable.
Yeah, and it also just depends on what they want out of that position. And I don't know what they want out of that position. I think they're still trying to figure it out.
Also, Chris Paul probably could go to the practice squad pretty easily.
That's also true.
So
Stromberg Harder was a third rounder? Yeah, third rounder.
A recent third rounder, too. Yeah.
Right.
Outside of Chris Paul's, the fact that he's had some starts, I don't know that there's anything there that says somebody's going to drop everything to juggle their 53 to go get him.
That's 100% true as well. It's a good point. Michael Phillips makes good points between 10 a.m. and noon into microphones. He makes good points outside of that time window, but nobody cares. Michael Phillips, MP on the mic, 910 The Fan. And Richmond, that's not true. I'm sure your wife and your kids care.
Sometimes.
On the good days. Anything else you want to promote for the show tomorrow?
No.
You're doing it from the parking lot here?
I'm doing it from the parking lot here.
How come you and JP have to do it in the parking lot and I get to do it here?
These are the questions I will spend 2 hours loudly asking while anybody who walks by happens to be in earshot. I do have a fun writing announcement, but it's 2 weeks away, so you'll have to have me back on.
No, we 1,000% will do that.
All right, good deal.
Very excited for that. Luke McCaffrey, my conversation with the Commanders wide receiver is next. Pick 6 at 6 coming as well here on the Team 980.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.